everybody. Susan Ruth here. This is Hey Human Podcast. Thank you so much for listening. On this episode of Hey Human, I spoke with Elana Mugdan. She's a screenwriter, editor, film producer, and a novelist. And her publisher reached out to me, and I had spoken with one of their other authors from this particular publishing house, Penworks Media, and Jody, who I spoke to, said, said, hey, would you like to read this other book by one of our other writers? I said, sure, send it to me. And I devoured Dragon Speaker. That's the name of the book, Dragon Speaker. It's a really great sci-fi fantasy book. And I got a kick out of it. I loved it. And when I was finished with the book, first of all, I was very sad to finish it. Sometimes that happens with books. You don't want them to end. And the good news is it's a series of in a series of 5. So yeah, I have to wait a little while for the second book to come out. But I immediately wanted to read the second book as soon as I finished the first book, which is always a great sign of a great author. So anyway, yeah, it was a really fun interview. Hope you guys enjoy it. Little housekeeping on iTunes. Please subscribe to Hey Human. And please, if you, I hit the mic. That's a big no-no. If you get a chance, please review Hey Human Podcast. Maybe leave out the fact that I just hit the mic with my hand. That's the first time in 17 episodes I've done that. So that's pretty good. Anyway, that would be really wonderful. Please rate, review, subscribe, share it with your friends, your family, your loved ones, anyone and everyone you can think of. It would be wonderful. So without further ado, let's all welcome Elana Mugdan, Dragon Speaker! Well, she doesn't speak to dragons. Oh, I almost forgot. October 15th is World Dragon Day. Have you ever heard of such a thing? Not me. I haven't heard of anything like it before, but I'm a big fan of dragons. Good dragons or evil dragons. Doesn't matter. They're dragons, which that's cool. Anyway, so here we go. This is Elana Mugdan that I'm speaking with today on Hey Human, and thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm excited. So your publisher, Jody, at Penworks Media, reached out to me and said, hey, would you be interested in talking to Elana? And I said, yeah, sure, but I'd love to read her book first, just so I have something to talk about. And he said, great. So he sent me a digital copy, which I'm a book person. I love books. I love the way they smell. I love the way they feel. I thought, oh my gosh, how am I going to read a digital book? I've never, to be true, I've never even read a digital book. I thought, man, this is going to be interesting.
Yeah, I'm a hard copy girl myself.
Yeah, but let me tell you, I read your book in less than 2 days. I couldn't stop reading it. It's so good.
Thank you. I'm so glad you enjoyed it.
Oh my gosh, no, I loved it. I told everyone, I was like, you have to read this book. And, not everybody's into fantasy and sci-fi and stuff, which I grew up in a family that worshipped all those kind of books.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Yeah, so, and it's, dragons are in it, so. The name of the book, so everybody, is Dragon Speaker, and it's part of it's a 5-book saga.
Yes.
Right? It's the Shadow War Saga, correct?
Shadow War Saga.
Yeah, and so this is book 1, and it just came out, Dragon Speaker, and it's really, really good.
I'm so glad you enjoyed it. I think that, in the same way that Harry Potter was kind of ubiquitously appealing to all audiences, I'd like to think that this is the same way.
Yes.
Because I tried to veer away from a lot of the fantasy tropes that sometimes deter people from reading fantasy books. Like a lot of it does have a large cast of characters, but we focus on our protagonists and you get to know them. And I think in a way it's a very character-driven piece, whereas some other fantasy books that you might read are very much like the land and the terminology almost become characters because it's so focused on that.
Like a Tolkien.
Which, I love.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
A huge influence, Lord of the Rings,
yeah.
And he was such a great linguist, and you could just tell from the way he wrote that he loved language.
Yeah, he made up his own even.
And he was, I know, right? And he was so clever just with the way that he was a wordsmith.
Yeah.
But especially for a little bit younger readers or casual readers, it might be a deterrent to have this kind of really enriched and extensive vocabulary and really specialized fantasy vocabulary. You have to kind of like know what the orcs are. You have to know what everything is and who everything is and all of these kind of weird names. So
yeah, you read one of Tolkien's books, and the glossary that tells you how to pronounce everything and all the place and all that is quite long. I mean, there's actual books written about his. They have classes in universities where you can study Elvish. Actually, it's pretty amazing, and just like you can study Klingon for Star Trek, which is fascinating. I've known people that speak Klingon. Even this is I grew up in this family where we would go to these kind of things, but I totally agree with you that as I was reading it, I thought this is very approachable. If I were, like, say, a 10-year-old or a 12-year-old, I think I would enjoy it just as much, especially because your protagonist is so wonderful to follow along with.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. So, is it Caria? Huh? Caria. Okay. Caria Nameless. Here's the thing. Whenever I talk to people who have written books, and I don't want to give away anything. And I had to say, one of the things I really enjoyed about reading your book is that you're very good at not giving things away. You know what I mean? That you are definitely on the journey, learning about the landscape and learning about the other characters, and as she's learning, where sometimes I think authors, they sort of tell you everything there is to know about a character, which isn't how real life works.
Right.
You don't meet somebody and you know everything about them. It's a journey into them.
That's a lesson I learned early on. Somebody was like, show, don't tell. And actually it was more of a film lesson, because I, for the past 10 years, have been working in the film industry. And I'll write a lot of screenplays, and very early on, some feedback was, you can show this visually. You don't have to tell the audience everything in dialogue. They're not stupid.
Right.
And I thought to myself, that's actually really good advice.
Yeah.
So I was young at the time, but I kind of internalized that, and I figured, I can use this in novel writing as well, because it helps to I think bring the audience on the journey with the characters, and like you said, discover things with them. And another thing I do is I switch between characters in terms of POV. So I'll spend one chapter with Caria, and then I'll switch over and spend another chapter with Fletcher. And
POV being point of view, for those of you that don't know what that is.
Yeah, sorry.
No, it's okay. It's okay. It's all good.
And I actually learned this technique from the Wheel of Time series, which I read in middle school, high school, and that was the first time that I had seen an author do something like that, use that technique, and for me it was like kind of mind-blowing. So I adopted that technique, and I think it's a really great way for an author to either give the audience more information or actually withhold information from them. Mm-hmm. Because if you're spending time with Caria, obviously you know her thoughts, and you see things through her eyes, and you feel what she feels, but you don't really know what's going through the heads of these other characters necessarily. You can have dialogue, but it won't really reveal their inner thoughts, especially if they're being sneaky or hiding something.
Yeah.
And then you can switch over, and you can give the audience more information by going over to them.
Did you name? I'm always curious about this with character names. Did you name her because the name is sort of derivative of the word song or life or anything like that? Like, Kai in Hebrew or
actually, I'm not really sure where the name came from, because I came up with it when I was really young, like 12 or 13 years old, and I might have just, kind of heard it somewhere in passing or seen it in passing and latched onto it, but it sort of popped into my head one day, and so I created this character. And when I say young, I do mean young. I'm like, a 12-year-old kid or something.
Yeah. Now, has this story been percolating for that long, or is the story...
It has. Oh, yeah. And I started writing it seriously when I was, in 9th grade. I started really, really working on it hardcore and being serious about it. But, of course, when I was that young, it was really, it was a creative outlet, but it was kind of just a rehash of the stories that I really loved, like Lord of the Rings and Aragon and The Wheel of Time and all that stuff. However, as I grew, And as I started developing my own ideas more and more, and and putting my life experiences into the book, the story grew with me and it changed with me. And one of the things that I did was, I am obviously an avid fantasy reader, and I love fantasy, but there are a lot of tropes that you see and almost cliches that you see in fantasy, which I wanted to stay away from. So you see, there's all these evil dark lords that you have to defeat. There's a Sauron or a Voldemort or what have you. And I do have this ancient evil warlord, Necrovar, in my series, but I made him a little different. I wanted to make it a little bit less black and white, like these are really the good guys and he's really the evil guy, and we have to defeat him. I wanted to stay away from that because in the real world, it's rarely ever like that.
I wanted to talk about that exactly. I made a note as like not everyone is 100% bad and not everyone's 100% good, and not everybody's even doing things for the right reasons or the wrong reasons at the time. And I really love that because to me, that is humanity. Yeah. And I talk about this all the time on various podcasts, is that, we like to black and white out everything. But your book, I love the fact that the characters, you can't hate them completely or love them completely because they're, They
are all flawed. They are all very human. And
even the ones who aren't human are human.
Yeah, right. Well, actually, and of course, we do meet some characters, some non-human characters, who have very human traits, or who, without trying to give too much away, who learn human traits. And that in particular is one of the things I had the most fun writing, is someone discovering their humanity who previously didn't really know how to act like a human, let's say.
Sure.
And learning emotions and learning how to interact, which I think actually is maybe a theme for a lot of these characters. Like, Cario was an outcast growing up, and, the villagers hated her because she doesn't have magic, she doesn't look like them, she was born at the wrong time of year, her parents, there was problems with her parents, nobody knew who her father was, they shunned her mother, they hated her mother.
Yeah.
So, so she has not had a lot of human interaction, really, not a positive human interaction.
Yeah.
And as she goes along, she has to really learn how to be like a good friend, to Fletcher, and how to become friends with Roxanne, one of the other characters, and how to handle the everyday teenage life of, maybe having a crush or doing this or doing that, or going out in public and dealing with people.
Brushing one's hair.
Yeah, right? She hates that.
Taking a shower, which if I remember correctly, when I was about 8, I loathed getting into water.
Well, I liked going swimming, but I did not like taking baths.
Yes, exactly.
Big difference.
Bathing was not okay. Yeah, it's interesting that too. I liked the metaphor of that she is also, not only is she learning how to interact with the outside world, but she's learning how to interact with her own spirit, her own self. And I thought that was really, especially if a young reader is going to be, will be reading the book, and I think that's an important lesson, is learning that you don't need the outside, again, without giving too much away, you don't need necessarily the outside person telling you that you're worthy or that you have magic or that, I think that's a very important metaphor.
Right, and
for women, especially for girls, especially.
Yeah, this is, and so I actually did, I wanted, again, going back to the fantasy tropes, you see a lot of fantasy books that are like a bunch of old white dudes going on a quest, which I love those books, but I wanted to kind of modernize or bring into the 21st century the epic fantasy niche genre, because we've seen pop fantasy and Harry Potter have its limelight. We've seen a lot of urban fantasy get a lot of attention recently, Hunger Games, the Divergent series, all that fun stuff. So these genres have been kind of popularized and modernized, but I still see epic fantasy kind of in this niche corner over here. So I wanted to...
journey. Epic meaning the hero's journey. Yeah.
Yeah, so I did. I wanted to make it appealing to everybody and bring everybody into it. So we have a very diverse cast of characters. And, so I think that really everybody can enjoy it and can relate to it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's really good. I loved it so much that I was pissed when I got to the end and I didn't have a second one, which, I mean, that's a sign of a great book. And
I'm flattered, I am. And I'm going to tell people and reassure them. Well, actually, it's funny. Book 3 is complete. I do have the bad habit of hopping around in my writing, so when I'm inspired, I have to write. So I finished book 3 actually back in like 2009 or something, 2008.
Oh my goodness.
This is a while ago. It does need some plastic surgery. Yeah. But book 2 is almost complete. We're about 8 chapters away from being done. And when I'm on form, I can write a chapter a day. So it seems like we're in a good place, but I've sort of written myself into a corner. So we're just going to do some thinking and and work our way through that. So I think by either the end of the month or a little bit into November, book 2 is complete. And then we have planned a 2018 UK release for it.
For book 2. I have to wait that long?
Well, I'm hoping that we can move that up. I'm hoping that if the editing process goes along quickly, and I do, if I can't actively write, if I have writer's block or there's a problem that I can't really solve on my own, I'll actually go back, I'll reread my work, I'll edit it, because I do. I'm a trained editor, so I can actually go through my own work with an almost objective eye and edit for content, grammar, organization, and as I do that, it reminds me of, what I've written in the past 100, 200 pages.
Yeah.
And usually it will give me the impetus to say, oh, okay, now I know how I can proceed in chapter 40, because I see what I wrote back here in chapter 20. I'm laying the groundwork almost subconsciously.
Yeah.
So it helps a lot.
Yeah, that's good, but it's a very long time.
Yeah.
For me, I got to about 20 pages before and I'm not kidding, I read this book in probably about a day and a half, so I had the last 20 pages, I'm like, dang it, I know it's almost over, and I was so irritated, because I was like, oh, I don't want to finish it, but I have to.
I'm like that all the time.
Yeah.
And I've been waiting for so many books to come out, and that's actually a pet peeve of mine, is if I have to wait too long. But I know that 2 years does seem like a long. Well,
it's not really that long.
A year and a half by now, because we're almost in 2017.
Yeah, it's not really that long. I'm just being
I'm
being a curmudgeon, but that just means that I'll have to go back and read the first book again, and then read the second book.
Right.
That's fine. It's funny because your true name, your actual name, reminds me of a Harry Potter character.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I don't know, there's something about your last name, or, Elana Mugdan sounds like a character out of Harry Potter to me. And I know
that's so weird, right?
It's your real name, it's funny. And then I turn on the Skype, and I think you look like Emma Watson, so I'm like, oh, what are the chances of that?
Well, that's very flattering. I will certainly take that. I'll take that comparison.
Yeah, it's funny. So, okay, I would like to get into your process a little bit. So you started the story in 9th grade. I don't know how old you are, you can say or not say. I know you're in the entertainment industry, so I never say how old I am, because I'm in the entertainment industry.
Well, I will let people know that I have a birthday coming up. I will be in my closer to 30s rather than 20s.
Okay,
20.
Yeah. When's your birthday?
So I'm over the 20s hill. But my birthday is actually October 15th, which I did not make this up. Thank you. I did not make this up, but there is a website out there, International Dragon Day, and they've chosen it to be this year on my birthday. So I saw that, and I completely flipped out. I was like, oh my God. I shared the website with people, and they're like, you made this up.
Are you going to have a big party?
At this stage of my life, I kind of just ignore my birthdays.
I understand that, but, if it falls on, it'd be fun to have a dragon party. What a great party that would be.
If I had had more time to plan, the only thing I would have liked to do was to have maybe like a book event, because a lot of people have been asking, are you going to do an event here in New York? Are you going to do a signing? Are you going to do anything? Which I would have liked to do, but now I don't have the time to plan it.
Yeah.
Maybe for Halloween, because Halloween is like my favorite holiday.
Yeah.
It's my day. So I might try something for the end of the month.
So do you carve out time? You said that you write when you are inspired and you follow that muse, but do you carve out time every day to write, or is it more a couple times a week, or are you very disciplined, not very disciplined? What's your process?
I am working on becoming more disciplined. So I work, I have a survival job like many creative arts people do. And on those days, there isn't a lot of time for me to go out after work and write, but I will try, in the afternoons, I might go to Starbucks, and it sounds so basic, it sounds so stupid, but I have to go to either Starbucks or Barnes & Noble to focus, because then I'll buy something and I'll be like, all right, I spent money, now I have to sit here for at least 4 hours and work.
Yeah.
And it works for me. So on the days when I have my job, I'll do that in the afternoons, but on my off days, I do have a routine. I like to go running and kind of organize my thoughts, be alone with myself, and then I will go to Starbucks and I'll literally sit there for like 7 hours.
Wow.
And I will either edit or write, and sometimes it's tough, but just like I can't do it in my room, because if I'm here, I'll just be on the internet, or I'll be texting people, and it's not good.
Yeah.
So I go out and I it's like an office kind of in a way, but I do. I'll work there, and I write in a disciplined manner like this, maybe a good 4 times a week, and then if I can't make it out, I will do work at home, and I really am trying to get into that routine. This is the routine I tell other people to follow, by the way. So I'm trying to follow my own advice and just have a couple hours a night where I'm there and I'm sitting at the computer and I'm explicitly doing work.
What is your survival career? Is it editing?
Oh God, I just work. I work as an administrator, front desk admin, at a real estate firm. Okay, so it's
about as far away from creative as you can get, then.
Right. Well, fortunately, again, in the real estate industry is it has its ups and downs. So on the slow days, it's actually very useful to me. Maybe I shouldn't admit this, but I can do some of my own work. So I'll go on my email and I'll answer emails, or I'll work on my website, which I have a bad tendency of kind of leaving that for months and not updating it.
Yeah. Don't we all? What is your website? So I'll put it on links on my Human podcast.
It's elentria.com, and so that's the name of the world in which Dragonspeaker and the Shadow War Saga is set.
Yes.
And I did update it recently, and I think it looks pretty cool.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of proud of the updates that I did. So you can go check it out.
All right. I'll put a link on the Hey Human podcast website, too. So I do that with everybody because, we end up talking about all sorts of different things, and it just helps direct people back to what they heard.
Of course, yeah.
That kind of thing. Well, cool. So, who in your book, in Dragonspeaker, are you most, this is the dumbest question ever, but who do you feel most akin to? Not including the protagonist, because that's just a no-brainer. Everyone always puts themselves in the protagonist. So, take the protagonist out, take her out. She shall remain nameless. Who is the next character?
I've actually thought about this a lot, and of course, every character in the book is really a facet of myself, so I project myself into everybody especially when I switch viewpoints. But I really love Cezanne. He's like probably the person I would be if I cared not at all about societal norms or, law breaking or stuff.
I liked him. It's funny too because I had a sweet spot for him, even though I don't want to give anything away, but I did have a sweet spot where I'm like, oh man.
Yeah, and he's he's kind of a jerk in the books, but he's funny.
He's got a lot of personality.
And he does, and he's great. So
he's the drummer when you were 20 that you're like, oh, I probably shouldn't date him, but
right, you're like, but maybe I will, either to anger my parents or just to rebel against the world.
Yeah, exactly.
That's totally him. So, but he is, I think, probably me without a filter.
Yeah.
So, and that's why I like him, maybe, because he doesn't care. He's going to be rude, he's going to be mean, he's going to break the law, he wants to get money. That's his, one motivating factor in life.
He's like a lot of people I know, for sure.
Yeah, right. So,
do you think, are you going to make this into a movie, you think? Because you're also a filmmaker. You're not just an author. You're like a lot of creatives. You're multifaceted. So, and I I mean, I could see this being a killer cartoon, even.
I would. Oh my God. Well, actually, again, I'm like 25 going on 13. So I love cartoons, animated films. Yeah. I watch kid movies like nothing else. And I would love to see it made into a movie, because that's, from day one, basically, when I started it, that was the dream, is to see it up on the silver screen. I think that it depends a lot on the success of the book, because I do think that it could make a very compelling movie, either as an animated version or as a live action film, which I would love to, see it live action. But we are many millions of dollars short in terms of a budget. So if the book picks up, and if people start paying attention to it, and it garners a lot of interest, especially when some of the other books in the series as well come out.
Yeah.
And I think maybe then studio execs might start paying attention and seeing that there is a fan base. I would hope.
On Goodreads, you get nothing but high marks. I took a look at Goodreads to see what people were saying, and it's going to get out there for sure.
I hope so, yeah. And some of them are beta readers, friends of mine who sure. I gave the book to as the years went on, and said, tell me if this is good or not.
Yeah.
So I have a couple people who have, they've read many actually iterations of the book.
Yeah.
They've seen the book in its earliest manuscript stages, and they've loved it all the way. So I'm very grateful to them. But I also now see on Amazon and Goodreads people who their names I don't know, and they like the book, and that to me I think is the mark of success from where I'm standing, because it's easy for your mom to tell you that you wrote the best book in the history of the world, because she's your mom and she's obligated to say that.
Yeah.
And your friends are kind of obligated to, be nice to you, or at least temper their criticism. But complete strangers, they're not obligated to say anything nice to me, and it's very flattering to hear that people who never met me,
sure.
have no connection to me, have been enjoying the book.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I am very grateful. And
does your family think you're crazy for being a writer, or are they cool about it?
My parents?
Yeah.
I've been crazy all my life, so they're used to it. And so my first career trajectory was to be an actress, which is, in a way, even crazier. And then my backup plan was to be a filmmaker, which is, like, even crazier. And then now I'm focusing on the writing, and so to me it even seems maybe a little bit more reasonable than some of the other things I've tried in my life. But they are very supportive. They've always been supportive of me. When I was actually in middle school and high school, I made a trilogy of feature-length films, a lot of which the ideas I stole from this book. So it's kind of an amalgamation of X-Men, Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter, Aragon. I mean, you can imagine it. It's a bunch of teenagers running around the woods in capes and doing fight scenes.
Awesome, yeah.
But I got my dad involved, and I would show him my screenplays, and he'd be like, it's great, but you're never going to make it. But then he would be out there with us filming in the woods, and he played the villain in the trilogy. A villain who ultimately redeems himself, however.
Yeah.
So he was there, every day with us, and so they're very supportive of me.
That's awesome. I love to hear that, because I think it is important to have support around you,
yes.
when you're a creative, because it's a tough road to hoe.
It is, and a lot of people get discouraged, and if you don't have at least that one person, and it can even be yourself, saying, you got to keep going, you can't give up, 3 years from now you're going to thank me for not giving up, then it is actually very difficult to continue, and the road can seem very dark sometimes.
Yeah. Did you ever watch the cartoon He-Man? Have you ever seen it?
I have seen
on YouTube. Yeah.
So I'm familiar with it. I didn't actually watch it growing up. I watched very little television growing up, because we didn't have cable. I wasn't allowed to watch really anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now that I'm on the internet, I know things.
Yeah. Well, as I was reading, I thought, man, this would be such a great cartoon series, a la He-Man.
Oh my God.
The Adventures of He-Man was a great cartoon.
It was, and
I had the poster in my room when I was little. I was like, oh, He-Man.
I don't know if you ever watched any of the 80s Rankin Bass films.
Mm-mm.
There was a lot of them, and actually they did an animated version of The Hobbit.
Yes, which is
I
awesome.
used to watch religiously.
Yeah, it's awesome.
And which told The Hobbit better in 88 minutes than they did in 3 movies recently, in my opinion.
I saw a double feature in the theater of The Hobbit and Heavy Metal.
Oh my god!
And you want to know what? My grandma took me.
That's awesome! Go grandma!
I know. Well, her husband, my grandfather, was college roommates with Heinlein, and so they went to the Naval Academy together. So she also was immersed in sci-fi and fantasy and understood all that stuff, which then my mother was immersed in, and had friends like Vonda McIntyre, and like these are all people that I grew up around. Yeah.
Which is crazy.
Yeah, so crazy. So
and Ursula Le Guin, right?
Yep, and Ursula Le Guin. Yeah, they're all friends of my mom's side of the family.
So actually, they did. Studio Ghibli did an animated version of Tales of Earthsea a couple years back.
Oh, I haven't seen that either.
Which has dragons in it, so obviously, and I love Studio Ghibli. I love their work. It wasn't Hayao Miyazaki. I think it was actually his son who directed it. But I'm like obsessed with them anyway, and they're fantastic artists. So I watched it, and it did have dragons in it. So obviously, I loved it.
Yes, dragons are awesome.
Yeah.
When I was little, my older brother used to collect the figurines and paint them, the iron figurines or pewter or whatever. Yeah. And he had his prized possession, which he still has, was this huge dragon that he painstakingly painted. So
that's great.
Yeah, dragons are a big thing in my family for sure. And my very eldest brother, he is Year of the Dragon, so he thinks he's really cool.
Love it. So everything. You have a pretty tame view of my room right here, but dragons.
Yeah, I have a. I don't know if you can see it. If I don't want to make you nauseous by turning the film, but or the thing, but you can see on the bookshelf there on the.
I see him.
My dragon, yes. My brother came to visit Nashville last year, and he brought me that dragon.
Yeah, here's this guy.
Oh, beautiful.
Who sits right up there in a place of honor.
Yay.
It was actually given to me by, I don't know, some random person. I knew him for like 2 days, and he was like, here, I have this dragon.
Hey.
I can't do anything with it. Why don't you take it? I was like, oh my god, okay.
That's amazing. You gotta love a good dragon gift. So now I'm a little confused. I know that October 15th is World Dragon Day. It's also your birthday, but that's the day that the book drops officially, or is that just a coincidence?
So the book is actually out.
It is out. Okay.
Yeah, it was released July 15th. But for people in the States, it's not actually available here in stores yet. So no Barnes & Noble or anything for us. If people here want a hard copy, what they can do, obviously, is they can go to my publisher's website, Penworks Media. They can order it on Amazon.co.uk. So you can't go to Amazon.com and order it, but you can go to the UK version. It's available on Waterstones, which is the UK version of Barnes & Noble. So, and if people go to the Elentria website, there's links for all of that stuff, so whatever your preference is. And, of course, it's available as an e-reader version, so you can go to Amazon and get a Kindle version as well.
Yeah.
So there are ways to get it. What we're hoping is that we can release a book. We can do a book release, I should say, every year. So what that means is, obviously, this year we released the first book in the UK. We're looking at summer 2017, we hope, for a US release of the first book.
Got it.
And then the following year in the UK, it would be release of book 2, and so on and so forth. So we're alternating every year, UK release of one book, and then the next year we follow it with the US release.
You'll have to come to Nashville with it. There's a great bookstore called Parnassus. It's the little indie bookstore here that's fantastic. So you'll have to come here. So how did you find Penworks Media? How did you come across your publisher? How did that go down? Because I know for a lot of aspiring writers, it probably feels very daunting to think, okay, well, here I have this book, now what do I do? So talk about that a minute.
It's very daunting. And so, like many people, I spent years, and I do mean years, submitting the book to, in the US, you really have to kind of go through an agent. So I would do that, and because a lot of publishers don't accept unsolicited materials. But I did all my homework, and I looked up publishers who would accept unsolicited materials, and I would submit to them, I would submit to agents. And in the earlier years, when the book was not its fully realized version that it is now, I would get a lot of responses like, oh, it seems good, but it's not for me, or this and that. And, as time went on and I honed my writing, and I especially honed my query letter, because that is very important. And that's something that a lot of people forget, is that you have to have a really stellar query letter, and I was just never good at that. Never. Can't write about myself. Can't talk myself up. So, I think that might have hindered me over the years. And so, but always it was submit to people, you submit to 100 people, you hear back from 3 and they're all no, right? And it's like, oh, well, it seems good, but it's not for me, or I'm sorry, but I'm not accepting new clients, or this or that. And I got really tired of it, because it was across the board in every industry I was working in. It was this series of rejections, And as an actress, it's very difficult. As a filmmaker, it's very difficult. And then as a writer, of course, when I come home at night and I do the writing bit, and I still get rejections, after getting rejections all day, it's tiring. And
you have to keep writing even when you're getting the rejections. That's a huge thing.
Fortunately for me, writing has never felt like work. It does now a little bit, because I have deadlines and I have to be disciplined, but I've always enjoyed it. And what I used to do on my days off, I would go to Barnes & Noble and I would write for hours and hours, and that would be my relaxation, which was great. But getting back to how I found Penworks Media, so I had, for years, been rejected, and I was at a point in my life where I was sick of everything. And I was kind of making my segue out of the film world, because it was very tiring, and there'd been kind of one too many rejections. And I was like, I'm going to focus on the writing for a little bit, and I don't care if everybody rejects me. I am going to publish it myself, because in today's day and age, you can do that. And if you are good at social media, which I'm not, right, you can be very successful. So I kind of made the mental commitment. I said, I am going to finish it. I am going to put it out there myself, and I'm going to promote it myself, and I'll be successful. And so I did. I started this whole process. I got it professionally edited, even though just to kind of give me the confidence to say, yes, okay, everything is perfect. I can publish. I can put it out there in the universe. I started working with people on cover art. I started looking up different self-publishing methods and stuff like that. And then around May last year, I go on Facebook and I see a post from a group that I've been added to. And I don't remember ever being added to this group. So the whole thing is actually very random. Jody, who is the manager of Penworks Media and my publisher, added me as a friend on Facebook years ago. And I didn't know him, and he didn't know me, but I accept friend requests indiscriminately because I like to feel popular. So there we were, right? and then apparently he added me to this group, and I usually will leave groups because I don't like getting notifications, because I'm secretly, I guess, a really crotchety old man sitting on his lawn. And get off my lawn, you damn kids. But I stayed in this group for whatever reason. Maybe because I saw that it was book-oriented and publishing-oriented, and so some subconscious part of me was like, this could be useful down the road. But I had been part of it for years and never seen an update from them, never seen a notification from them. Suddenly I go on Facebook and this post pops up. And he's like, we're accepting submissions in X, Y, and Z genres. And fantasy wasn't one of those genres, but I commented on it. I was like, would you accept a fantasy submission? And Jody wrote back. He was like, yeah, send a letter, query letter, and Penworks Media, info@penworksmedia. So I said, okay. I free letter. I have my writing sample.
Oh, we're breaking up a little bit. Hold on for a second, if you can hear me.
With my plan.
Wait, hold on. The video's. Okay, I think we're back. The query letter. You sent the query letter and a writing sample, and
yes. So I have these things. I sent them out. If he doesn't like them, it's fine, right? It's no skin off my nose, and I proceed with my self-publishing plan. So I sent it out, and like you do with all queries, you put it out and you have to let it go. You have to forget about it, because 10 times out of 10, it's usually a no. But he actually got back to me very quickly, and he said we would love to see a full manuscript, which is a big thing. That's a big deal.
Did you send him like a first chapter or something, or?
Yeah, I wrote I wrote a query letter, and I wrote actually a little bit more of a personalized query letter saying how I found Penworks Media and why I thought it might be a good fit. So I added a little bit of embellishment to it.
Yeah.
And I sent, I guess, maybe the first 3 chapters.
Yeah.
So usually when people request materials from you, or when you're doing a submission, they'll ask for a writing sample, and it will be maybe either the first 10 pages or the first 3 chapters, something along those lines. So it's pretty standard. So I had sent that, whatever it was that he was asking for, but then he asked for a full manuscript, which, like, that's the dream. That means somebody's interested enough to invest a lot of time, and it's not a short book. It's like 118,000 words.
Yeah,
that's the investment on their part, and it means that they like your work enough to make that investment. So I was like, oh my God. So I sent that, and again, I kind of tempered my expectations, and I said, it's okay. This is still a really good step in the right direction. It makes me feel good that somebody likes it. Even if it's a no, it's all part of the process. It's all part of the journey. But then he got back to me again, and he said, we love it. We want to publish it.
It's really good. Yeah.
And the rest is history.
It's amazing. What a great story.
Yeah.
And I think it's important to note that you pounded the pavement up until then as well. But from some of the stuff I've read about you, and I watched a couple videos on YouTube and such, it seems to me like you are of the personality that you're like, this is who I am, this is what I do. I'm going to make a film today. All right, so I'm going to start making, and I think that's great, because just like the character in your book, the protagonist, that, you are going through the world, you are like the realized version of her, and that do you know what I mean? That you're like, this is who I am, and this is what I'm going to do, and the outside influence, that's great. And good on your parents, too, because, that also comes from an upbringing of very independent thinkers and things. I have a feeling that I don't know anything about your family, but I have a feeling it is a family of independent thinkers.
It is, and intellectuals.
Yes. Well, I can tell. Yeah.
Which I'm, in a way, kind of the black sheep in that regard, but they also a lot of very artistic people. So the family is actually very small. My immediate family is really, now it's like 5 or 6 people.
Yeah.
Immediate family. So they're not very big, but all either have a history in the arts or education or actively are in it.
Yeah. Great. It's a really wonderful background to come from. Not that you had to have that in order to be successful, but I think
it's really find your passion and follow it.
Yeah. And you know what? My father says that my uncle used to always say, opportunity knocks, it doesn't nag. And you've done the work. And so when you did happen to notice Jodi's post, you came to the door prepared and opened it.
I like that. That's actually a really good analogy.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
To me, it did. It felt very random that I suddenly saw this post and everything kind of fell into place. But if I think about it, it's really
perfect timing.
I'm preparing for that moment.
You bet, absolutely. And good for Jodi for seeing something. I have to laugh because I think, well, geez, if I was a publisher and I got through the first 3 chapters, I'd be like, I need to read the rest of this book.
Well, actually, I have to thank one of the other people of Penworks Media, Prima Patel, who was apparently the reader who got my manuscript first.
Ah, well, good on Prima.
Yeah, and so she's actually the one we have to thank.
That's a great name, too. Prima Patel? What a great name.
Yeah, she's great. And she's like, Jody, we got to publish this.
Oh, wonderful.
So actually, it's Prima we have to...
All right, yay to Prima. Awesome.
She's the unsung hero of this saga.
She knows what's up, that's for sure. Well, this has been delightful. I really appreciate your time, and I want everyone to go read Dragon Speaker. Elana wrote a great book. It's fantastic.
Well, thank you, Susan. I'm very honored. I'm honored that you wanted to speak with me, and I had a fantastic time speaking with you.
Yay! Have a wonderful day. Enjoy spring. I don't know where I am. Enjoy fall in New York. Is it a nice day today in New York?
We're getting, I think, the tail end of the hurricane.
Matthew, yeah,
it's working its way up.
Yeah, I'm in Nashville, and we are being pummeled with some. I shouldn't say pummeled. We're getting some pretty decent wind last night and today. So
yeah, it's not really bad out, but it is cold and dreary.
Yeah.
Yesterday was actually really misty, nasty in the morning.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that this is the worst of it, and that it just kind of stays nasty, but not detrimental.
Yeah, that Matthew was a badass. He really.
Oh, it was really bad.
Yeah, really bad.
Not even in the U.S., but in Haiti.
I know, it's so sad.
Slammed terribly.
So sad.
And it's really bad down there.
Yeah, Mother Nature is pissed.
Mm-hmm. We've done a number on her.
I know. Not a happy camper. Well, have a wonderful fall day.
Yes, thank you.
I got my seasons right. Time is fluid. I don't know, whatever.
Time is a construct of our minds. It doesn't exist.
Exactly. Take care. Everyone read Dragon Speaker. I'll have links on my heyhumanpodcast.com, and it's fantastic, and you're fantastic. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you. Thank you. You too.
See you later.
Take care.
Bye.